This is a presentation of BSRN, Box Studios Radio Network. The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here is your host of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for March 13th, 2025. This is Season 14, Episode number 49, and Episode number 488 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. Hello, everyone. I am Bob Howard. Thank you very much for joining me. I know this edition of the Power Play Post Show is coming out late, but there was a lot of stuff that happened last weekend against the Blue Ridge Bobcats, and I wanted to really I wanted to keep my composure through this episode, right? I could have done it on Sunday night. I could have done it on Monday, and I probably would have gone a little crazy with some of the things that I said without really learning truly some of the things that happened and how they transpired and how it went down. Of course, we saw a lot of things through the videos, and there was videos that fans put up onto the social media platforms, mostly Facebook, obviously, to kind of prove their point one way and or another. And obviously things got crazy. Things went down. And a lot of those things I'm going to address, obviously, in this edition of the Power Play Post Show. This might be a long episode of just me. We do have a guest coming up this upcoming Sunday from the Binghamton Black Bears. It's Darian Benchik, who will be on the show. And I just recorded with him just a few minutes before I'm recording this here on Thursday evening. Great kid. I love getting to know some of these guys. And I'm kind of glad I did the interview before I did this, because I really don't want to just delve into just, hatred and virtual kind of like just disgust about last weekend, because there were a lot of good things that happened for the Binghamton Black Bears last weekend, even though the streak was ended on Saturday night, right? They obviously won their 40th game. That was on Sunday. There were so many other things that happened that were good. They won their 18th in a row, which is just an outstanding thing, and we should be happy about that. And I think Black Bears fans realize how good of a team they have, how good of a coach they have. And, sometimes with Brant, sometimes, the good comes with a little bit of the crazy, right? He's passionate. He loves his players. He loves the game of hockey. He loves it to be played correctly, and whatnot. One of the things I wanted to address before we get into the meat and potatoes of the games themselves and the things that happened in the thing, I want to talk about something. And I think this really kind of transpires to why a lot of what happened. And this comes from the Blue Ridge Bobcats head coach himself. They were watching, obviously, 2 weeks ago. From about the time you're watching this, it's going to be almost 2 weeks, right? Since the last Good Times Tully's show with Brooks and Brant. And Brant really kind of bragged. He said, listen, we're going to go down there. We're going to take 9 points. And, he said, confidently, we're going to take 9 points. And apparently that pissed off the Blue Ridge Bobcats. And they used that as bulletin board material. Good for you. That's awesome that you did that, right? Because you did. You broke the streak on Saturday, and you won that game, right? And sure, there were some things that went down in that game that maybe people are not going to like, which basically led to C.J. Stubbs getting kicked out of the game, and, of course, Gavin Yates, right? You take those two guys out. You didn't have Don Oliveri. You still beat the Black Bears, right? And the Black Bears have been down and out with missing guys before and still won games. So credit to the Blue Ridge Bobcats for doing that on Saturday night, right? But apparently it rubbed them the wrong way that Brant was confident in his team. I just want to say this. And I don't care who listens to this from the Blue Ridge Bobcats, whether it's the team, president or, Brett, I love you, man. You did a great show this past Tuesday with Zemleka and Greg Hussey. I don't care who hears this. What do you want him to say? Do you want him to say, well, it'd be nice to maybe get a game. Maybe we can squeak out 4 points down there. It's going to be a tough barn. Is that what you really want him to say? Would that have not had all this break down the way it did? Because here's the point of this, right? If you were so pissed off, so angry about what Brant Sherwood said, about the confidence he has in his team, and he's going to have confidence, and I'm going to tell everybody else the rest of the way, and in the SPHL or the ECHL or in the AHL, Brant Sherwood is going to chirp you. He is going to chirp you. Get over it. Ignore him if you have to. But to allow things to happen the way they did to get us to Sunday because he chirped you on the coaches show, guess who he's selling tickets to? He's not selling tickets to the Blue Ridge Bobcats fans. He's not selling tickets to the Danbury Hat Tricks fans. He's selling tickets to the Binghamton Black Bears fans. He's selling tickets for Andreas Johansson, okay? That's what he's doing there. He's confident in his team. He knows his team can win. His team had just won 17 games in a row before they were coming down to you guys. And so you got butthurt. And that's really what it is. You got butthurt that he chirped, and then they chirped on the bench on Friday, and they chirped again on Saturday, and then the fans got involved and chirped, and everybody's chirping back and forth, and people are grabbing crotches. I mean, how many crotch grabs did we have? I think it was almost as much as in a Michael Jackson concert, right? How many times did Michael Jackson grab his crotch? Well, I think that happened that many times this past weekend in Blue Ridge. That's the crazy thing about this, right? Because people got butthurt. Well, guess what? We live in a world now where people say some pretty nasty things. But saying that they were going to win and get 9 points, that's really not that nasty, guys. It doesn't need to turn into that. And that's and the reason why I bring that up and I say it that way is because that's the explanation that we got this past Tuesday on the coaches show. Well, they said they were going to get 9 points and we weren't going to be bullied around. Well, were you really bullied around, or did you guys turn around and become the bullies? Right? Maybe that's what it was. And even if, I'm going to throw this out there, even if there was proof and video, and I haven't seen the video, and someone can send me the video, that Brant Sherwood said to Poirier, go up there and ask Hussey if he wants to fight, big deal. He doesn't have to do it. And then if Poirier takes a swing at Hussey, and Hussey had said no, and he cloak clocks him or cheap shots him or whatever, then guess who's going to get suspended, right? It's going to be Poirier. And Poirier didn't get suspended, and there was no talk about in the outline, hey, this is what happened, because it probably didn't happen. During that whole ruckus where Cam Clark and I can't even remember who Clarkie was fighting at the moment, right? And Poirier was watching them, right? Brant was probably pointing and doing a lot of different things, but can you really prove? Can you tell me? And the best part is when you ask for video evidence that's supposedly there and someone can't offer it up to you. Let me tell you something right now. Here's the thing that I call complete bullshit on, and this is the truth, is that when someone says, oh, there's video evidence, and then you ask, okay, well, why don't you give me the video evidence? And they say, well, it's not mine to give out. Okay. This is social media in 2025. Everybody posts everything. So where's the video evidence of him pointing? Where's the video evidence of him punching some fan? And, maybe he did, maybe he didn't do it, right? But he didn't get suspended 5 games for that. I thought he did, right? And then you read the explanation and you find out that he really didn't. To me, it's just craziness, right? You get so butthurt because someone says they're going to win, take 9 points, and then they chirp you all weekend long, and so you premeditate and you admit this on a broadcast. You actually admit, oh yeah, we went in there and we discussed it, and then we came back out and we jumped them. And the proof in the pudding is really the picture that I took a screenshot of, right? And they had 5 of the Blue Ridge Bobcats with their gloves down on the ice, and the Black Bears were retreating into their zone, right? Because the drop of the puck and the puck came back and they went back. Cam Clark is completely blindsided because he's looking absolutely the wrong way. He's looking down into the left-hand corner of Connor McAnanima. You can see him in the screenshot, and I don't know if it's Wolf or who. It's Danny Martin, their captain, literally goes in right at him. So, again, I have a hard time understanding that this was them sticking up for themselves against a bunch of bullies, right? Okay. The bullies are number 1 in the league. That's really what it comes down to. If they're such bullies, then you know what? Get better and beat them. And then if they were bullies and you beat them in game 2, why couldn't you beat them in game 3? Right? You'd already gotten Gavin Yates suspended for 2 games because he flipped out because there were hits that weren't called. In the 3rd game, there was a hit on Chris Mott that Cam Clark had to go in his first fight ever, right? Okay, so what people don't realize, first professional fight. So it's just crazy. All because Brant Sherwood. And so I guess it's Brant Sherwood's fault this whole thing happened, right? Because obviously to the league, to Dave Jackson and Paul Jean, and I can't even spell Paul Jean's name right half the time. I don't know if it's with a G or with a J. It doesn't really freaking matter. The guy's going to be gone at the end of the season, and thank freaking God. We need somebody else in there managing the referees a hell of a lot better. Paul Jean, good riddance. Get out. Nobody likes you. Nobody wants you. And the majority of the league, they talk about you in a very negative way. So it'll be good that you'll be gone. But again, Brant Sherwood's fault because he said 9 points and then he chirped through the thing. So I guess chirping is against the rules now, and we from Binghamton wholeheartedly apologize. But it's very interesting because so many things came out of this. The Hitachi Energy Center is not safe for anybody, whether it be fans, whether it be coaches, whether it be players. It's not safe for anybody. And it's proven when the stuff that comes out for the suspensions and the fines affect because of the lack of safety. In my conversation with Andreas Johansson, I believe it was on Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning, it was Tuesday morning, was basically that there's a safety issue when you go to Danbury and when you go to a place like Blue Ridge. How did you guys not think about that? What did you think was going to happen? Did anyone think about the prior history between Zemleka and Sherwood? I don't think so. Anyway, I knew it was going to go down a really bad road. I was going to get upset about this again. And if people are wondering why I'm upset about this, I really do care about the Black Bears players. And I have these guys on the show, and then they say hello to me, and they care about what I do, and I care about who they are and telling their story. And it gets tainted a little bit because of some idiots, and it just makes no sense. And again, Brett Wiseman, I love you, man. I think you're great, and you were just doing what you had to do on the show, but you set Hussey up and Zemleka up to look really bad because you shouldn't have asked any questions about that, because Zemleka admitted that basically it was set up by the players and by himself going into the 3rd period. And Hussey basically said that Poirier came up, asked me if I wanted to fight, and then before Hussey even had his gloves off, before he even said yes, he was already throwing his gloves off. So Hussey wanted to fight anyways. Everybody knew Hussey wanted to fight. And so he got the fight that he wanted. So anything that Coach Sherwood did doesn't really matter at that point. It was mutual. He didn't jump him, other than some of the other things that happened in the 3rd period of that 3rd game. All right, moving on. Let's get into this. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search for Power Play Post Show. And thank you to all of our new members. If you're listening for the first time, thank you for joining the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Check out BinghamtonHockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. And there is no guest. It's just me. It's just me rambling on for the next probably 40 minutes. All right, last weekend, the Binghamton Blackbears and the Blue Ridge Bobcats met for 3 meetings down at the Hitachi Energy Center in Wytheville, Virginia. The Black Bears won Game 1 on Friday, 7-3, winning their 18th game in a row. The Black Bears then dropped their first game in almost 2 months, 5-2 on Saturday night, and Sunday was a drama-filled game, but with the Black Bears winning 4-1. All right, so let's talk about Friday night first. In the first period, with 1 second left on the clock, holy cow. See, here's another thing gets overshadowed for that weekend. Dan Stone scored the Black Bears' first goal of the game after a flurry of shots in the last minute of the period. It was the last second of the period at the 19:59 mark. Pretty awesome. And Dan Stone's really starting to heat up offensively, which is pretty cool. 27 seconds into the game, Tyson Kirkby got a holding penalty. That was after Danny Martin and Austin Thompson were jabbing each other a little bit before the face-off of the game. So the story of all this really happened right at the beginning of Game 5. The game on Friday night, where things were happening in I guess there were pucks being sent down into the Blue Ridge zone from the Black Bears, and there was obviously a lot of chirping that was going on. Just 6 minutes into the first period, the Bobcats had a 5-3 shots on goal advantage, but they also had the first power play. Austin Thompson did a very strong open ice hit in the first 6 minutes. Again, very physical game from both teams. The Black Bears get their first power play chance at the 10:52 mark as Carson Angeloli held Dan Weber with 5:42 to go in the period. The Bobcats had some good chances, and C-Mac had to come up big. Parts of this period, the Bobcats were able to control the puck in the offensive zone in front of Connor McAnanima. There is no surprise that with 4:54 left to go in the period, the Bobcats had a 12-6 lead in shots. If you watch that first period, you can see the Bobcats were doing some good things forechecking-wise, that were keeping the puck in there, and they were getting shots on goal. The Black Bears don't have Jesse Anderson, Donald Oliveri, and you can tell they're a little out of sync. Bobcats have done some things well in the first period, win faceoffs, win the puck possession game, and battles into transitions from zone to zone. Black Bears did have a flurry of shots in the last minute and a half with a period of 5 shots, including the goal at the 19:59 mark of the period by Dan Stone. Shots on goal was Binghamton 13 and Blue Ridge 15. Now, in the second period, the Black Bears outshot the Bobcats in the period 17-12, but no one scores and the game remains 1-0 after 40 minutes. While the Black Bears were on their second power play opportunity, McHugh for the Bobcats had a shorthanded chance that he ranged off the iron. With 11:07 to go in the middle frame, Michael Mercurio had a great chance on C-Mac that came up, and C-Mac came up with a big save. There have been back and forth odd man rushes, but both Connors, Green and McAnanima, had been very good tonight, at least through the first 40 minutes. Black Bears get a second power play opportunity at the 17:28 mark as Mercurio was sent to the box for slashing. He spent a lot of time in the box, by the way, over the weekend. Another shorthanded chance for the Bobcats, but they don't have a lot of high-end scoring skill. So you can have a lot of shots, but if you have guys that are just going to shoot at the pads, hit the goaltender in the stomach or in the chest, they're gonna stop it the majority of the time. And C-Mac is an above average quality goaltender in this league, and so he's going to make those saves. The Black Bears generated more shots in the period, but not a lot of great chances. Again, the Black Bears just did not have good chances in the second period, but Connor Green played well in the game. In my opinion, the Bobcats are not playing the Black Bears. They would likely, if they weren't playing the Black Bears, they'd probably be winning 2-0 against another team. The Black Bears are 0-3 on the power play through the first 40 minutes, and the Black Bears need to start converting on the power play. Shots on goal in the middle period were 17-12. Binghamton now had a 30-27 lead in shots on goal. Third period. This is where it got more interesting. CJ Stubbs gets the Black Bears' second goal of the game just 1:08 into the third period after he scored on a rebound shot from Gavin Yates, making this a 2-0 lead. Then Gavin Yates scores the Black Bears' third goal of the game just 3:27 into the final period as he went high on Connor Green and beat him. Then on the power play, Gavin Yates scored his second straight goal of the game, making this 4-0. a 4-0 game at the 3:53 mark of the third period. Scott Romakers picked up his 14th goal of the season, 5:17 into the period, capping off the Black Bears 4 goals in 5 minutes and 17 seconds, keeping the foot on the gas in the third period. The Bobcats get on the score sheet as Michael McCurra cleaned up a rebound of a Connor McAnama in front of Connor McAnama to make this a 5-1 game right at the 10-minute mark of the third period. The Black Bears made it a 5-goal lead again as Dakota Bonds scored a power play goal at the 10:35 mark with the Bobcats captain Danny Martin in front of the box for delay of game, puck over the glass. With Austin Belfuli, hopefully I said that right, Belfuli, in the box for slashing, Zach Sirota scored his first power play goal as a professional, making it a 7-1 game with 5:15 left to go in the game. Now, this is where the tide kind of changed, I think, in the weekend in the favor of the Blue Ridge Bobcats. The Bobcats started to see some momentum come to their side of the play with their second goal of the game from Nicholas McHugh at the 18:25 mark of the third period. Then in a shot from Daniel Klednicki, in which Connor McAnama could not see, the Bobcats scored another late third period goal to get this game 7-3 with 14 seconds left to go in the game. Third period notes. With the way the first two periods went, it's great to see a quick goal for the Black Bears. Quickly, 20 seconds actually after the Black Bears' second goal, Dale Dion sits in the penalty box after a hooking call. This game turned around 5 minutes and 17 seconds in the third period with 4 Black Bears unanswered goals, with goals from C.J. Stubbs, Gavin Yates, and 2 goals, one of them on the power play from Scott Romakers. I'm sorry. I read that wrong. Gavin Yates with 2 goals, 1 on the power play, and then they got also a goal from Scott Romakers. It's like the Black Bears just needed to find their mojo here in Wytheville, as they've never played in this barn before. And let's be honest, it's not your typical hockey arena, and it's not your typical community rink, right? This was a rodeo barn that they turned into a hockey rink, and I think they did an outstanding job in certain aspects of that, where the seats are, how the seats are. Obviously, they need to do work on the glass, making it higher, and of course, a secure way for players to get on and off the ice. And I don't even like the way the Blue Ridge Bobcats have to come on, because at one point they have to shimmy. If you saw in the video them coming across to get to the rink, I don't know if it's not wide enough there, but they have to shimmy across. Very odd. I don't like that, and I don't like that for them. I mean, I think that's just weird. It's like the Black Bears just needed to find their mojo. What a third period from both teams. The Black Bears with 6 goals and the Bobcats with 3. The Black Bears scored 3 power play goals in the period. The Bobcats scored 2 late goals, but normally we would say too little too late. But does this build confidence for the Bobcats for tomorrow's game? Of course it did. Either way, win 100 for Brant Sherwood, right? So there's another milestone for the weekend. Sherwood gets 100th regular season game. The Black Bears win their 18th straight game in a row, improved to 39-4-1 with 113 points. Okay, shots on goal was 22-13, a total of 52-40. Okay, so here's the highlights from that Friday's game. Brant Sherwood wins his 100th game as a Black Bear and their 39th. Dan Stone scored his 7th goal of the season and the Black Bears' first goal of the game. C.J. Stubbs scored his 19th goal of the season and assisted on both Yates' goals. Gavin Yates scored 2 goals in the game, his 16th, his 17th of the season, including his second power play of the season. Scott Romaker scored his 14th goal of the season. Zach Sirota hit the double-digit mark and scored his 10th goal of the season. Dakota Bonds scored a goal and had 2 assists for 3 points. Tyson Kirkby played a playmaker in this game, assisting on 3 of the goals. Austin Thompson had 3 assists as well. Connor McAnama won his 25th game of the season, saving 37 of 40 shots. And so the Black Bears 18 straight games. So again, a very, very, very good game for the Black Bears, especially that third period. All right, so moving on, the Black Bears and the Bobcats then met on Saturday night, and a game that obviously the Black Bears would love to be able to have back. Just 1:20 into the first period, Gavin Yates scored his 3rd goal of the weekend, putting the visiting Black Bears up 1-0. I believe that was his 18th goal of the season. With Dan Weber in the sin bin for tripping, the Bobcats did not wait until the third period to score a goal like on Friday night and got a power play goal off the stick of Hunter Godmere at the 5:54 mark of the first, knotting this game up at 1 goal apiece. The game did not start on time, and Brooks Hill kept mentioning that the big lights were not on. I'm not sure what that was and what the problem was, but it was about 10 minutes later, and they finally did come on, and they started the game, but it did start late. We did not have to wait until the 1959 mark for the first period today. Instead, the Black Bears got their first goal just 1:20 into the game. Gavin Yates may have been injured last week, but was out very quickly this weekend, has 3 goals in the 3-game series so far. The Hunter Godmere power play goal, the Black Bears allowed way too much space in front of Eggy, allowing a good clean shot from Godmere. A lot of big hits from both the Black Bears and the Bobcats. Again, this was physical from Friday through Sunday. However, one of the big hits led to Tyson Kirkby penalty for kneeing, which looked more innocent to me. I didn't think that was kneeing at all. I am liking the physicality, but not liking the minors coming out of it. An early 5-3 power play for the Bobcats put the Black Bears at an early disadvantage. The first period got very physical, and then at the end of the showed with 2 fights at the 18:37 mark. First, Dan Weber got a boarding penalty, and Gavin Yates got the 10-minute misconduct for abuse of officials. That got him kicked out and eventually suspended for 2 games. Here are how the penalties broke down. Dan Weber got a boarding, then he got a fighting major, then Joshua Slaggers got the fighting major for fighting Dan Weber, and then CJ Stubbs fighting after the original altercation, the 10-minute game misconduct, and Jacob Wolf also fighting after the original altercation, a 10-minute game misconduct. Gavin Yates then got the abuse of officials misconduct and then the abuse of officials game misconduct. That got him suspended. But it also, what happened at the 18:37 mark, because of what happened, a hit to Chris Mott that was never called as a penalty, and if it was, it would have not. I mean, a lot of this stuff would not have happened if the referees made the right calls. After the fights, Nicholas McHugh and Josh Fletcher on the benches were yapping at each other. Before the fight, the Black Bears were not happy about the way Gavin Yates was hit. So it was Gavin Yates that got hit in this game. It was the third game that Chris Mott got hit. It looks like the Bobcats wanted to be physical and fight the Black Bears. Josh Fletcher is going to run someone or fight someone. He was amped up at the end of the period. Shots on goal, 13. Blue Ridge 10 in the first period. All right, now in the second period, the Bobcats take their first ever lead over the Black Bears off the stick of Brendan Reller at the 1:23 mark of the second period, giving the home team a 2-1 lead. After a whole ice pass from Scott Romaker, Tyson Kirkby scored the equalizing goal 36 seconds later, making this a game at 2, a tie game at 2 with just 1:59 into the middle period. The Bobcats get the lead back at the 6:40 mark. Or it was actually 6:40 left to go in the second period after Justin Daly scored a rebound goal, making this a 3-2 Bobcats lead. Second period notes. Appears early in the second period, the referees missed too many men on the ice penalty against the Bobcats. It's their home rink, and when you swap and the goalies and you're going the other way, at least in your home rink, you should be used to how that works. Redler's shot just plain beats Egbert. However, the Black Bears' next shift, Tyson Kirkby answers with a goal of his own. Some back and forth between the two teams in the middle part of the second period. Mercurio ringed one off the crossbar, and Benich brought the puck all the way back down to the ice for his own chance. The Bobcats seem to be comfortable trying to forecheck or run and gun with the Black Bears. But I would not say the Black Bears are controlling the puck considerably more than the Bobcats, though the shots on goal are leaning that way. I think the Black Bears are just getting more of the shots to Hussey. Again, the game had been chippy and leaning towards the Bobcats getting what they wanted from a strong forecheck and being physical into the faces of the Black Bears. The best third period team will have to be great to come back and win this game. Shots on goal, 24 for Binghamton, Blue Ridge had 17 in the second period for a total of 37 for Binghamton and Blue Ridge 27. In the third period, after a turnover in the defensive zone, the Bobcats take a 2-goal lead after Nick Stuckless goal at the 5:36 mark, so he scores against his former team. And Justin Daly scored an empty net goal at the 19:18 mark of the third period to make this a 5-2 Bobcats win, ending their win streak at 18. So the Black Bears win streak obviously ended there. Third period notes. This game had the feeling all game, which I will talk about, which I'm talking about, I talked about in the day after game report. The feeling was just that the Black Bears were being pushed around. And I know the Bobcats talked about the Black Bears being bullies. But, I think the Bobcats did a pretty good job of being bullies themselves. It took until the 6:11 mark of the third period, but Josh Fletcher and Nicholas McHugh did drop the gloves. It was a quick fight, and Fletcher wrestled McHugh to the ice. I know fans are going to say referees cost the Black Bears this game, or that they screwed the team over. No, they didn't. Blaming the refs is just something that people do who do not know hockey and fall back on that all the time. There were a lot that the Bobcats did well in this game, from forechecking, getting physical, and plugging the Black Bears' good shooting lanes. The Black Bears turned over pucks in their own zone and had a horrible time transitioning from zone to zone. The Black Bears did pull Nolan in the last 3 minutes of the game to get the extra attacker, but all that does not matter. The Black Bears are still 39-5-1 after these two games, still the best team in the league by far. This is the Black Bears' third game where they broke a double-digit streak by a team. So I believe they broke Carolina's 10-game winning streak, Athens' 11-game winning streak, and the Black Bears' 18-game winning streak. Hey, kudos to them for that. Nobody's, if you guys think in Blue Ridge that the Black Bears are really upset that you guys broke their streak, they're not. They won a championship last year, and right now they're only like a few wins away from having home ice advantage through the finals. Shots on goal in the third period were 20 for the Black Bears, and Blue Ridge had 10. Binghamton, again, over 50 shots on goal, 57. Blue Ridge, 37. I will say that Hussey did play a good game on Saturday. And I believe he was supposed to start on Friday, and then it got changed really quick. All right, so final score notes. The Black Bears streak ended at 18 games. Bobcats win 5-2. Gavin Yates scored 18th goal of the season, scoring the first goal of the game before he was kicked out of the game. Tyson Kirkby scored the Black Bears' second goal of the game. Both Ramakers and Dan Stone had an assist in the game. Nolan Egbert saved 32 of 36 shots on the goal. Now has a record of 14-3-0. The Black Bears winning streak did end at 18. All right, let's get to the final game. That one started at 4:05. The Black Bears bounced back on Sunday afternoon in a 4-1 fight-filled game with many ejections. In the first period, let's see here. Let me make sure I get this right. After killing a 5-on-3 penalty kill, Austin Thompson and Josh Fletcher came streaking in on the Bobcats netminder Greg Hussey. The Black Bears get the first goal of the game after Thompson's shot was cleaned up by Fletch at the 15:49 mark of the first period. In the first period, the Black Bears was going to start Josh Fletcher, Zach Sirota, and Darian Benchik. A more physical line. However, both teams were tagged with pregame warm-up violation penalties. So Coach Sherwood opted to go with a combination of his top line against and putting out his skill line out there for a 4-on-4 matchup. The Black Bears puck possession already looked better through the first 7 minutes of the period with 8-1 shot on goal difference, and then they limited the Bobcats' look on CMAC. And you could just tell it wasn't just the shots on goal. They were just moving the puck around better. The Bobcats are trying to be physical and trying to goad the Black Bears into the physical play. We know that comes a little bit later on. There were even an exchange. There was even an exchange between Hussey and Fletcher. The Black Bears kill 155 of a 3-on-5 penalty kill with Fletcher and Weber in the box. And then after they come out, Fletcher is able to clean up a rebound for his first goal, for the game's first goal. An amazing kill in a sequence to get the game's first goal. Considering the players out of the lineup playing a third game in 3 nights, the Black Bears have played well, limiting the the Bobcats' chances and quality shots. They have also generated some good opportunities as well. Okay. 34 minutes into this already. Shots on goal in the first period, Binghamton 25 and the Blue Ridge Bobcats 10. Second period, after the Bobcats turnover in their own zone, Chris Mott takes advantage and scores his 10th goal of the season. So Zach Sirota scores 10 this past weekend, his 10th, and so did Chris Mott. Congratulations to both of those guys. He scored that at the 8-minute mark of the second period, making this a 2-0 lead. Scott Romakers followed up the Mott goal with one of his own, making it a 3-0 lead for the Black Bears at the 9:32 mark of the middle period. Cameron Clark scored the Black Bears' 4th goal of the game with just 1:18 left to go in the period. Okay. Second period notes. Cam Clark and Patrick Cogan dropped the gloves after Chris Mott was hit into the boards. No penalty on the hit, so Cameron Clark fought for his teammates. Then Nick Poirier and Greg Hussey were fighting, and the Bobcat went. A Bobcat went third man in. Hussey and Poirier both got fighting after the original altercation, game misconduct. And I thought the third man in should have been called on the Bobcat, and I don't blame him for doing it. I want people to know. Usually, I do not agree with goaltenders fighting skaters. And the reason why, different padding, it's an unfair advantage for one of the two, right? The fighter, if he's a really good fighter or if he's an enforcer, he's going to be able to move his body around a lot better than the goaltender, and the goaltender's going to have a little bit better protection. It's an unfair fight. And I don't care who it is. That's just my opinion. The penalties in this altercation was Cam Clark fighting major, Cam Clark instigator. He did instigate it. That's fine. That was served by Darian Benchik. Blue Ridge, Patrick Colgan got fighting major. Greg Hussey got the fighting major. And so did Nick Poirier, fighting after the original altercation, so they were kicked out of the game. Now, some people thought from the Blue Ridge Bobcats that this was ordered and directed by Brant Sherwood. There is no proof to say that was the case. Connor Green, who started the game on Friday night, came into the game as Hussey was ejected. It is also known that after Hussey and Poirier incident happened, there was video proof, supposedly. I've never seen this. Oh, wait, no, there is video proof. There is video proof that Hussey grabbed his crotch as he was trying to egg the Black Bears into another fight. The league should review and suspend under the inciting and lewd penalty rule, which they did. As Hussey left, he had to be held back by the linesman. He was trying to get the bench, the Black Bears bench, to engage with him, and he tried to get Connor McAnama, who kind of looked over at him. Kind of gave a little bit of, hey, I see you. But just he didn't really pay much attention to him. Chris Mott's 10th goal now means the Black Bears have 12 players with double-digit goals. Hey, they're pretty good. They don't need to really worry about a team like Blue Ridge. The Black Bears were beat last night on Sunday night as they scored 2 goals, 132 span to take a 3-0 lead. They have killed penalties so far, fought for their teammates, and even chipped in on 3-0. After the fight, Josh Fletcher, Michael Mercurio. Josh was a clear winner in that one. However, the trainer followed Fletch to the locker room, and I think Josh himself stopped the fight. If you watch the fight, you can see him kind of hold up his arm, and he kind of asked the linesman to come in to stop it. The Black Bears are not backing down in this game. Great to see Cam Clark get another goal. It was the 16th of the season. The two get into a tussle at the end of the second period. The two teams get into a tussle. Romakers, Tyson Kirkby, Austin Thompson involved with Black Bears players in front of the Black Bears bench. And apparently, there was some even fighting into the players' bench a little bit. Shots on goal, Binghamton 19, and apparently that was a big deal. They were pissed off about that too. Blue Ridge was. Binghamton 19, Blue Ridge 7 for shots on goal. Binghamton already has 44 shots on goal, and the Blue Ridge Bobcats only had 17. In the third period, the Bobcats get their first goal of the game, making this a 4-1 game at the 10:02 mark after the Hunter Godmere shots beats Nolan Egbert. Now, of course, we all know that the third period started off with a line brawl. The third period started off with a line brawl. Cam Clark and Jacob Wolf appeared in the video to drop the gloves first, but from further review, Clark didn't really drop the gloves, and he just got basically tackled. And Wolf got the instigator, so the refs saw the eyes on Wolf engaged to start the fight, which then leads into all the penalties and suspensions. But after the fight starts, you can see 3 or 4 of the Bobcats, all of them, had their gloves off. This is where people understandably are going to say the Bobcats planned the line brawl, which they did. Also, note who is on the ice for either team: Kirkby, Stubbs, and Clark. Right? Basically the line that started, their high-end first-end line. Yeah, sure, Stubbs is normally playing on the second line, and Clark is normally playing on the third line. But for this game, they were playing on the top line together. This was the starting line for the Black Bears in that contest, where the Bobcats ran out there against some of their tougher individuals like Wolf, Redler, and Mercurio. Volchek Zemlenka knew what he was doing here. Brandt has publicly said to Zemlenka before the drop of the puck, watch this. Okay. Now, there could have been many reasons for this. Some goes way back to the Roanoke Rail Yard Dogs days for Zemlenka and Sherwood. There's personal heat between the two, and that may have boiled over into Sunday's game, or really for the weekend. But also I think that Zemlenka thought all bets were off when Nicholas Poirier fought Greg Hussey. Now, there's no video evidence showing that Brant Sherwood directed Poirier to go after Hussey at the 151 mark of the third period. But there is video after the Clark-Colgan fight that Hussey was looking for kind of McAnanima or anybody to come and fight him, and he really wanted the Black Bears to engage and get. So with that being said, after the line brawl, and the third broke out, as it appears, Kirkby, who was jumped, it was clear as day, assisted by C-Mac. I was wrong to think that C-Mac was jumped from behind. He was the third man in on what was happening to Kirkby, and he assisted. Props to C-Mac for that. And again, C-Mac probably should have got the third man in on that. But I think the one good thing that they did was they didn't look at any of those fights and gave anybody any suspensions for them because of that, except for Kirkby, which I really have a problem with. Zemlenka, after he was thrown out, was by the glass for a long time. Not sure what the rule is, but the refs were trying to sort it all out. He was there giving directions to Klinicki or getting updates. Either way, I don't know what the official rule is in the FPHL, but probably mirrors the NHL and AHL, and he should have been to the locker room sooner than he was. Coach Sherwood left when he did. There was an altercation as he left the ice, heading to the locker room. I cannot speak to exactly what happened, even though it's been talked about, but there was an altercation. I will say this, though. For the safety of the teams, the fans, personnel, there should be better security or coverings like our arena in Binghamton to get from the ice to the locker room for opposing teams. This is an issue for the league in some cities, a.k.a. Danbury and now Blue Ridge. I know other things that happened as well, but I'm not addressing them here. I want to see how the league handles this, which I will talk about in just a little bit. There will be suspensions on both sides. There will be fines. Josh Fletcher is injured, and Dakota Bond had an injury as well. I will not go into detail as from the request of the Black Bears, but I will say that Josh Fletcher will be out, whereas Dakota will be able to play as long as he doesn't get suspended, though I think he might, as the last penalty tonight was Dakota Bond, derogatory language, taunts or slurs, 10-minute game misconduct at the 20-minute mark, so we'll have to see. The Black Bears improved to 45-1 with 116 points. Their next opponent, of course, is Danbury Friday night at the arena, and then they have Carolina on Saturday. Shots on goal, Binghamton 12, Blue Ridge Bobcats 15. Binghamton had 50 shots or more in all three games. Blue Ridge Bobcats had 34 shots in this game. So Black Bears killed a penalty-filled game 4-1. Josh Fletcher scored his 7th goal of the season. The game's first goal, assisted for 2 points. Chris Mott scored his 10th goal. Ramaker scored his 15th goal. Cam Clark scored a goal in the game. Tyson Kirkby also had 2 assists in the game. There were over 200 penalty minutes in the game, and it got out of hand. The Black Bears win the Empire Division, improve their record to 45-1. So we had Jersey's 100th game. We had the Black Bears' 40th game. We had them clinching the Empire Division. What a weekend for the Black Bears. Fallout from Sunday was affected like this. Okay, since the cat is already out of the bag, And this is what I wrote earlier today. Here is the fallout. Brant Sherwood received 5 games for defending himself against a fan while trying to enter the locker room. That's what I thought. We'll talk about what really happened here in just a few seconds. Tyson Kirkby received 3 games for a sucker punch during the line brawl, clearly started by the Bobcats, who have stated they were sticking up for themselves because the Black Bears were chirping them too much. Remember, 9 points. Dakota Bond received 4 games for 2 instances of lewd gestures. One was on video, one was not. So allegedly, what does that mean? Friday, the Binghamton Black Bears will only be able to address 13 skaters and 2 goalies against Danbury Hat tricks. Gavin Yates was suspended, and the roster reduction still applies. So that's 3 people they'll be down because Tyson got 3 games and Dakota got 4. Saturday, when Gavin comes back, they'll be able to dress 14 skaters and 2 goalies in the game versus the Thunderbirds. Okay, the Black Bears are still the best team in the league, and they're able, and maybe even in single A hockey. And I would expect even down players, and Brant not behind the bench to be more competitive this weekend. The Coach Sherwood will talk about this all the time. Coach Sherwood and I talk about this all the time. Adversity only makes the team stronger. All right, so the last thing I want to do on this whole thing is talk a little bit about the suspensions. And finally, they released it late in the evening here. Just before I started to record, they did announce it. So let's go through this. Blue Ridge Bobcats Hussey suspended for 2 games. Now, this was clear as day. During the lengthy delay after the line brawl to start the second period, Mr. Hussey witnessed on video standing in his crease, dropped his blocker, and invited someone off camera to come fight him. When his intended invitee did not engage, he put his blocker back on and emphatically grabbed his groin twice in the direction of his opponent. First offense, FPHL Executive Board slur and lewd gesture policy. Mr. Hussey will be suspended 2 games. It's the right call. Easy peasy. All right. Next one is Zemleka. Okay. So here's what Dave Jackson had to say about this. Mr. Zemleka either ordered or tactically condoned his starting 5 players to go after Binghamton's players at the start of the third period. What happened at the start of the third period was clearly premeditated from the video. The Blue Ridge Bobcats initiated all fights. Mr. Zemleka allowed his players to threaten and entice their opponents during the pregame warm-up. Mr. Zemleka verbally engaged in running a feud with the opposing coach the entire game, culminating in him punching the opposing coach in the face. Mr. Zemleka will be suspended for 4 games and is fined. They put a lot of blame here on Zemleka, and he only gets 4 games. I think it should have been doubled. I'll be honest. If what Dave Jackson is saying is that Zemleka really had the largest part to play in what happened on Sunday, he should have gotten 8 games. It's that simple. Wasn't enough. Dakota Bond suspended for 4 games. Mr. Bond. So this is the part that really just kind of pisses me off, and it should piss off everybody else. It should piss off Brant. It should piss off Dakota. Mr. Bond was caught on video engaging with fans behind the player's bench when he ended the interaction by grabbing his groin multiple times, directing towards the fans. Later on, he was seen leaving the ice. It was reported to the off-ice officials that he flipped the bird at the Blue Ridge Bobcats crowd. This was 2 separate gestures established by the executive board. Each incident is 2 games. One is seen. One is not seen, but reported. I don't know. Listen, ref, he tripped me. Are you sure? Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't see it. I know, but he did trip me. All right. Well, that's a 2-minute It's a 2-minute penalty right there. All right. Okay. So we report things to the ref. They now get called. You see the idiocy in that? It's idiocy. Binghamton Black Bears Tyson Kirkby suspended 3 games. This is the one I really have a big problem with. Mr. Kirkby committed 2 egregious actions during the third period line brawl. The first infraction was a sucker punch he delivered to the face of the opponent who was already engaged with an opponent. His opponent, who was engaged in a fight with another Binghamton player, had no idea, or nor did he see Mr. Kirkby coming at him when Mr. Kirkby skated over and delivered a vicious sucker punch to his face. This is a match penalty for attempt to injure and will be assessed 2 games. After delivering the sucker punch, a Blue Ridge Bobcat player engaged Mr. Kirkby, and the 2 players fought. Both players eventually fell to the ice, and the fight ended with the linesman intervened. The fight had been over for a good 5 or 8 seconds, and the players got to their feet, and the linesman separated them when Mr. Kirkby unleashed a cheap shot punch directed to the face of the opponent, who clearly thought the fight was over and unable to defend himself. Well, can I ask a question to Dave Jackson? Wasn't basically the whole point of the line brawl and them dropping their gloves was to basically sucker punch every single guy on the team from the Black Bears? Wasn't that the whole point of that? And so weren't they defending themselves? And we all know that the game of hockey is very passionate, and it's just ridiculous. All right, so let's talk about the last one. First of all, Mr. Jackson, you're absolutely dead wrong with the suspension to Tyson Kirkby. He should not have gotten 3 games for that within a melee, and you don't give anybody else there any penalties in that melee at all. All right, so Sherwood gets fined and suspended for 5 games, okay? Mr. Sherwood also lost his composure and made no attempt to control his team. Multiple exchanges and taunts occurred during the warm-up. Throughout the game, I can see on video he constantly engages with the opposing coach and the fans. At one point, his player standing directly in front of him on the bench is chirping a fan and performing a lewd gesture. That's Dakota Bond, of course, to which Mr. Sherwood completely ignores. After being ejected, Mr. Sherwood allegedly went out of his way to confront a retreating fan and punched him in the head. The suspension only reflects his behavior behind the bench, and he will be subject to additional discipline from the executive board for his actions with the Blue Ridge Bobcat fan. While his behavior behind the bench was not as egregious as the counterpart, this is his 5th game misconduct in the last 12 months. Because he is a 5-time repeat offender, he will be suspended for 5 games. So basically, his past history is the reason why he got more games than Zemleka. Just ridiculous. And then there's a note. Blue Ridge Bobcats general manager Jimmy Mecklin has been fined an undisclosed amount, and Blue Ridge Bobcats PA announcer Mike Atwell has been suspended for his actions and may not be present in the scorer's box area for the next 2 home games. Wow. It took me 50 minutes to get through that garbage. And it's just unfortunate because, again, the Black Bears won their 40th game, which was a goal of Sherwood's. They won Sherwood's 100th game. They won 18 games in a row. They had the streak broken and then immediately turned around and won the game. And we have to talk about garbage like that. And we have to talk about the suspensions. We all had to wait 3 or 4 days for these suspensions to come out because they had to watch all the stuff. So Brand Sherwood doesn't get suspended because of the altercation with the fan. He gets suspended because of his game misconduct that he was egged into because of what Zemleka did. Okay. Again, this was all a plan by the league and by teams outside of Binghamton trying to get Sherwood in trouble. And honestly, Schurzy, man, when you come back, don't engage with these people. Just don't engage with any of them. They are literally out to get you out, and it's unfortunate. It really is. All right, I'm going to take a break, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about the games coming up and some stuff that is pretty cool. So, we'll be right back.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. Let's get to some good stuff now, right? So let's talk a little bit about what's going on. Goaltender C.J. Hapwood and forward Anthony Bernardo have agreed to terms to finish their seasons with the Binghamton Black Bears. Okay, Anthony is a 24-year-old forward that has played the last 4 seasons with nearby SUNY Cortland, right up the road from us. He probably has been to a Black Bears game. In those 4 years with the Red Dragons, Bernardo appeared in 104 games, registering 25 goals and 31 assists. Bernardo scoring the game-winning goal in the 2024 SUNY AC championship game that sent Cortland to the NCAA Division III tournament. Before his time with Cortland, Anthony spent multiple seasons in the PAL Islanders organization. I believe that's the organization that Eggy probably played a little bit in as well, across multiple leagues. Anthony is a native of Happewaug, New York, and has a right-handed shot standing at 5'11" and 180 pounds. CJ is a native of West Caldwell, New Jersey, where he played most of his youth in junior hockey. The newest Black Bears goaltender appeared in 5 seasons of NCAA hockey, including 3 years at Colby College, and the final 2 at Suffolk University. In his most recent season, Hapwood posted a .199 goals against average and a save percentage of .931. Across all 5 seasons at the NCAA Division III level, CJ has had a save percentage of at least a .911 or higher. Hapwood becomes the Black Bears' first ever goalie collegiate signee, which is pretty cool. Before this weekend's games, and it was planned, I guess, about a week ago, defenseman Cameron Cervoni returned to the Binghamton Black Bears after a 16-game stint with the Huntsville Havoc, where he scored 1 goal, 1 assist for 2 points, 4 penalty minutes, and was a +3 for the Havoc. Earlier in the season with the Black Bears, Cam had 2 goals, 4 assists for 6 points, with 14 penalty minutes and a +9 rating. Welcome back, Cam. Good to have you. He's a former guest here on the Power Play Post Show. The Black Bears have 2 big games this weekend. First on Friday night is Sock Out Cancer Night. The Black Bears will host the Danbury Hat. In 7 games played, the Black Bears are 5-1-1 versus the Hat this season. So they've played 7 games so far. Binghamton won the first game on the 25th. Then on 11/2 of the 2024 at home, we lost the game 4-3 in a shootout. I believe that was the 8-round shootout that Josh LaBelle scored the shootout goal. I think it was LaBelle. And then we won 2 games in a row at Danbury, believe it or not, November 15th and 16th, down in Danbury to win 2 games is amazing. But they won the first one 2-1, and then a 4-0 shutout on the 16th. Then there was the 7-4 loss, probably one of the 2 really bad losses for the Black Bears this season. It was a 7-4 loss at Danbury, and then 2 more wins after that, 3-2, and then another shutout. We've actually shut out Danbury twice this year, which is pretty impressive. In their last game on December 28th in Danbury, the Black Bears did shut out the Hat Tricks 5-0. The Black Bears got goals from Scott Romikers, who scored 2 goals, from Cam Cervoni, who's returning, which is obviously a good thing, Tyson Kirkby, and CJ Stubbs. Connor McAnana saved all 28 shots in that shutout. This is the battle of first and second place in the Empire Division. Not that they're battling for position, but it is the battle of first and second place. The Black Bears are 45-1 with 116 points, scoring 237 goals, allowing only 120 goals, and a differential of 117 goals to the good. The Hat Tricks, who are in second place, mind you, in the Empire Division, are 26-11-8 with 81 points. So there's a difference of 35 points between the 2 teams. They've scored 189 goals and allowed 155 goals, a smaller differential of 34 goals to the good for the Hat Tricks. The Hat Tricks are led by Gleb Van Durken, who in 40 games played has 26 goals, 24 assists for 50 points. Johnny Ruiz, always a leader on this team, with 26 games played, has 21 goals, 22 assists, 43 points, 9 power play goals for the head coach of the Hat Tricks, and 4 shorthanded goals. Jacob Ratcliffe, who in 44 games played has 11 goals, 30 assists for 41 points. Chase Harwell, who in 31 games played has 18 goals, 22 assists for 40 points. He also has 6 power play goals, 4 shorthanded goals, and 2 game-winning goals. So Chase Harwell is definitely someone to look out for. And they have 2 very good goaltenders. Connor McCollum, 18-10-5 with 3.17 goals against average and a .912 save percentage. And Frankie McClendon, who I think has been around for 40 years, 7-1-1, 3.44 goals against average, and a .906 save percentage. Frankie's really been around probably since the beginning of this league 15 years ago. Last weekend, while the Black Bears were playing the Bobcats in a 3-game, 3 nights, so were the Hat Tricks, who hosted the Venom Hockey Club in those same 3 nights. On Friday night, the Hat Tricks shut out the Venom 4-0. Connor McCollum earning his second shutout of the season. And on Saturday night, the Venom were about to squeak out a win. Oh, the Venom squeaked out a win 5-4. On Sunday, the Hat Tricks doubled up the Venom 4-2. After Friday's game, the Black Bears will still have 3 more games, including the Black Bears' second to last game against the regular season against the Hat Tricks. The second of the 2 games this weekend happens on Saturday night and is the battle of first-place teams between the Empire Division and the Continental Division. The Carolina Thunderbirds will only meet one time this season and will be in Binghamton on Hockey for Hope night. If you don't know what that is, there is going to be a game. Chris Balla will be in the game, a former Ottawa Senator and Binghamton Senator. He will be in this game. It is really another game that's trying to help raise awareness and money for cancer. So check out Hockey for Hope on all the social medias. They're all over the place. And it's a great thing to check. I think they also have a former NHL goaltender playing in this game as well. The last time the 2 teams met was the last season in the Commissioner Cup Finals, with the final game happening on May 10th in Binghamton, with the Black Bears winning the Cup. The Thunderbirds are 33-8-4 with 101 points and have scored 181 goals and allowed 99 for an 82 goal differential. The Thunderbirds are led by, I'm going to click my page here, Gus Ford, who in 40 games played has 27 goals, 44 assists for 71 points. I believe he's one of the top 3 in the league. He has 8 power play goals and 7 game-winning goals. Roman Kramer, who in 37 games played has 20 goals, 30 assists for 50 points, 7 power play goals, and 3 game-winning goals. Zach White, who in 24 games played has 18 goals, 20 assists for 38 points, 4 power play goals, and 4 game-winning goals. Jan Salak, John Butita, who I believe is still their captain, Yuri Pistruka, Peter Panachek are all threats for the Thunderbirds. This is a well-put-together team like they were last year. They're still good this year. Not saying that they're going to come in and wax the Black Bears. I'm not saying that at all. This is still going to be a decent game. And then there's Super Mario Cavalieri, who is 19-5-2 with a 2.09 goals against average, 925 save percentage, and 5 shutouts. Okay, so that's it. We made it. It's just past 1 hour. Holy crap. I've talked way too much. I'm tired. I really hope for just 2 really good games this upcoming weekend against Danbury and against the Carolina Thunderbirds. The Black Bears are going to be a little shorthanded. They'll get through it. Even if they drop one of these games this weekend, not a big deal. They're going to regroup, and within a couple weeks, they're going to be back to full power again. That's the important thing. I do want to mention Dakota Bond. Gash over his right eye from Sunday. Josh Fletcher, he's going to be out as well, okay? So it's just the way it is. Josh Fletcher knew he hurt himself. He got the fight stopped, and he went immediately off the ice. I believe the trainer from the Blue Ridge Bobcats checked him out. And he eventually, I think, I'm trying to remember who took him to the hospital, but it wasn't anybody from Binghamton. I believe it was the son of the owner of the Roanoke Rail Yard Dogs, if I remember correctly. There was a lot of stuff that happened last weekend, and it would be nice if those type of things don't happen, but they do, and it's adversity. And as Coach Sherwood and I say all the time, you learn from it, you grow from it, you become a better person, a better hockey player because of adversity, and you move on. I am proud that I'm a Binghamton hockey fan, and I'm proud that I cover the Binghamton Black Bears and the people involved with it. Andreas picked up the phone a couple times and talked to me this week as I was trying to gather information. Coach Sherwood and I had a few text message exchanges. I tried not to bother him too much earlier the week because of what happened, but I wanted to let him know that I was thinking about his team and everything that happened. It was an unfortunate thing that happened, and there are a lot of things that we are not 100% sure of, but it is what it is, and we'll see what happens. So thank you very much for listening, guys. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search Power Play Post Show and join the group. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. Thank you to Rob Lapoulos, our MC, John Petitucci, our musical director. And again, thank you for listening. I am Bob Howard, and we'll talk to you next time right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.